This video is brought to you by the Battle Zoo Bestiary, a new book featuring 100 award-winning monsters and the monster part system that allows players to harvest resources from their fallen foes and craft into custom gear. The Battle Zoo Bestiary is now available at battlezoo.com. Hey everybody, Dave here with another Pathfinder rule reminder for you, and today's question is about the Learn a Spell activity and spontaneous spellcasters, and specifically the question that was asked was, what's the point of Learn a Spell if you're a spontaneous caster? And the short answer is because of spell rarity. So if you look at the Learn a Spell activity, which is what spellcasters can use to gain new spells in addition to those that they get for free when they level up, the key piece of text is going to be towards the bottom. There's a passage that says, if you have a spell book, learning a spell lets you add the spell to your spell book. Pretty straightforward. If you're a wizard and you want more spells that you can choose from when you prepare your spells in the morning, well, the way you do that is you find those spells, or you find someone who can teach that spell, and you use Learn a Spell to add that spell to your spellbook. Now the next line says, if you prepare spells from a list, so basically all prepared casters that aren't wizards or other people who have spellbooks, it's added to your list. And if you have a spell repertoire, you can select it when you add or swap spells. It is that last sentence that's causing the confusion here. If you have a spell repertoire, you can select it when you add or swap spells. So from the perspective of the person who asked this question, if every time I level up, I get to add or replace spells for free, then what's the point of having Learn a Spell? And again, the answer is because of rarity. So if we take a look at one of the spontaneous spellcasting class entries, for example, here on the screen is the Bard class, but this block of text is a very similar format that's repeated in all the different spellcasting classes. It says, at first level, you learn 2 first-level occult spells of your choice and 5 occult cantrips of your choice. You choose these from the common spells from the occult list or from other occult spells to which you have access. And it continues in the second paragraph to say, you add to this spell repertoire as you increase in level. Each time you get a spell slot, you add a spell to your spell repertoire of the same level. So at second level, you select another first level spell. At third level, you select 2 second level spells, and so on. Okay, so what this means is, as you are leveling up, you are adding spells to your repertoire, but when you add a spell to your repertoire, it has to meet one of 2 criteria. First, either a common rarity spell, or second, a spell to which you have gained access. Now, the means to which you gain access to a spell largely come down into 2 categories. The first is the GM says you can have it. Pretty simple. You say, hey GM, there's an uncommon spell, I'd like to have it. Do you mind if I take this when I level up? And they can say yes or no. Generally speaking, if they're saying yes, the intent of the rarity system would be something like, oh, this is a spell that is closely tied to your ancestry. This is a spell that elves, I think in my campaign world, elves have more common access to the spell than maybe dwarven spellcasters do, or vice versa. So that would typically be the rationale for allowing a player to take it as one of their free spells when they level up. But the second main way that spellcasters get their spells when they level up, if they're not common rarity, is going to be through the Learn a Spell activity. So that's what Learn a Spell is doing for spontaneous casters. It is letting them get access to a spell that is not common rarity. So if they find a teacher who can teach them an uncommon or rare spell, they can use this Learn Spell activity to gain access to that spell. Or if they find a scroll or a wizard spell book or whatever, as long as it meets all the criteria of Learn a Spell activity and their tradition, and they make the appropriate skill checks, they can add that spell to their list of spells to which they have gained access. Meaning that next time they level up, They don't do it immediately, but the next time they level up, they can reorganize their spell repertoire, and they can swap spells from a new spell that they've used learn spell activity on, or if it's of an appropriate level, they can gain that as one of their new spells when they level up. Now, although this question that was posed to me was specifically about spontaneous spellcasters, I think this answer applies to really all spellcasters who don't use spellbooks. So even prepared casters like druids and clerics who, quote, know all spells by default, the reality is they know all common rarity spells and other spells to which they gain access. So even they would need to use the learn a spell activity to gain access to divine or primal spells that are uncommon rarity or rare rarity. And it's worth mentioning that there are a number of spells that are considered kind of staples of the genre that are not common rarity, and that players would need to use the learn a spell activity or get special permission from their GM in order to take on as one of their free spells. So a fairly brief and not all-encompassing list includes detect alignment, undetectable alignment, non-detection, detect poison, discern lies, protection, circle of protection, locate, mind reading, zone of truth, globe of invulnerability, rope trick, pass wall, tongues, raise dead, scrying, and teleport. All of those are uncommon or rare rarity and not available as free spells. So that's it for today. Always make sure you are double checking the rarity level of the spells that your players take when they level up, and if they're not common spells, then find some fun way to incorporate them into your adventure. If they want the spell, find a way to have a teacher available, or make that spell available on a scroll that they find as loot. As always, I will leave links in the description of this video to any of my other videos that are relevant to this topic, and if you have any suggestions for future rule reminders, please make sure you leave those in the comments. And of course, I want to take a quick second to say thank you to everybody out there who supports me, whether that's through leaving your suggestions, leaving your comments, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, subscribing to the Patreon. I really appreciate everything you folks do to support me. And with that, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.